The Quran, text, translation, and commentary by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Introduction, Part 3. To his cousin Ali, the well-beloved, born when he was 30, he appeared as the very pattern of a perfect man, as gentle as he was wise and true and strong, the one in whose defense and aid he spent his utmost strength and skill, holding life cheap in support of a cause so high, and placing without reserve his chivalry, his prowess, his wit and learning, and his sword at the service of this mighty messenger of God. Not till the age of 40 did he receive the commission to stand forth and proclaim the bounty of God and his gift to lowly man of knowledge by word and pen. But all through his years of preparation he did search the truth. He sought it in nature's forms and laws, her beauty and her stern unflinching ways. He sought it in the inner world of human lives, men's joys and sorrows, their kindly virtues and their sins. Of pride, injustice, cruel wrong, and greed of gain, scarce checked by the inner voice that spoke of duty, moral law, and higher still, the will supreme of God, to which the will of man must tune itself to find its highest bliss. But he grew steadfastly in virtue and purity, untaught by men. He learnt from them and learned to teach them, even as a boy of 9, when he went in a trade caravan with Abu Talib to Syria. His tender soul marked inwardly how God speak in the wide expanse of deserts, in the stern grandeur of rocks, in the refreshing flow of streams, in the smiling bloom of gardens, in the art and skill with which men and birds and all life sought for light, from the life of lives, even as every plant seeks through devious ways the light of the sun. Nor less was he grieved at man's ingratitude, when he rebelled and held as naught the signs of God, and turned his gifts to baser uses, driving rarer souls to hermit life, clouding the heavenly mirror of pure affections with selfish passions, mad unseemly wrangles, and hard unhallowed loathsome tortures of themselves. He worked and joyed in honest labor. He traded with integrity to himself and to others. He joined the throngs of cities in their busy life, but saw its good and evil as types of an inner and more lasting life hereafter. People gladly sought his help as umpire and peacemaker because they knew his soul was just and righteous. He loved the society of old and young, but oft withdrew to solitude for prayer and inward spiritual strength. He despised not wealth, but used it for others. He was happy in poverty and used it as his badge. And his pride when wealth was within his reach, but not within his grasp, as a man among men. At 25, he was united in the holy bonds of wedlock with Khadijah the Great, the noble lady, who befriended him when he had no worldly resources, trusted him when his worth was little known, encouraged and understood him in his spiritual struggles, believed in him when with trembling steps he took up the call and withstood obloquy, persecution, insults, threats, and tortures, and was a lifelong helpmate till she was gathered to the saints in his 51st year, a perfect woman, the mother of those that believe. There is a cave in the side of Mount Hira, some 3 miles north of the city of Mecca, in a valley which turns left from the road to Arafat, to which Mohammed used to retire for peaceful contemplation, often alone but sometimes with Khadijah. Days and nights he spent there with his Lord. Hard were the problems he revolved in his mind, harder and more cross-grained than the red granite of the rock around him, problems not his own, but his people's, yea, and of human destiny, of the mercy of God in the age-long conflict of evil and righteousness, sin and abounding grace. Not till 40 years of earthly life had passed that the veil was lifted from the preserved tablet, and its contents began to be transferred to the tablet of his mind, to be proclaimed to the world and read and studied for all time, a fountain of mercy and wisdom, a warning to the heedless, a guide to the erring, an assurance to those in doubt, a solace to the suffering, a hope to those in despair, to complete the chain of revelation through the mouths of divinely inspired apostles. The chosen one was in the cave of Hira for 2 years and more. He had prayed there and adored his Creator, and wondered at the mystery of man with his corruptible flesh just growing out of a clot, and the soul in him, reaching out to knowledge sublime, new and ever new, taught by the bounty of God, and leading to that which man himself knoweth not. And now, behold, a dazzling vision of beauty and light overpowered his senses, and he heard the word Ikra, Ikra, which, being interpreted by may mean read or proclaim or recite. The unlettered apostle was puzzled. He could not read. The angel seemed to press him to his breast in a close embrace, and the cry rang clear, Ikra. And so it happened 3 times, until the first overpowering sensation yielded to a collected grasp of the words, which made clear his mission, its author, God the Creator, its subject, man, God's wondrous handiwork, capable, by grace, of rising to heights sublime, and the instrument of that mission, the sanctified pen and the sanctified book, the gift of God, which men might read or write or study or treasure in their souls. The veil was lifted from the chosen one's eyes, and his soul for a moment was filled with divine ecstasy when this passed, and he returned to the world of time and circumstance. In this world of sense, he felt like one whose eyes had seen a light of dazzling beauty and felt dazed. On his return to common sights, the darkness now seemed tenfold dark, the solitude seemed tenfold empty. The Mount of Hira, henceforth known as the Mountain of Light, the mere shell of an intense memory. Was it a dream? Terror seized his limbs, and he straightway sought her who shared his inmost life, and told her of his sense of exaltation in the awful void when the curtain closed. She understood, rejoiced, and comforted him, gave strength to his shaken senses. Wrapped up in warmth, his shivering body, unused as yet to bear the strain and stress of an experience rare to mortal men. She knew it was no dream or delusion. She went and consulted her cousin Waraka, a devout worshipper of God in the faith of Christ, learned in spiritual alone. He listened, and with her rejoiced that he, Mohammed, was God's chosen one to renew the faith. She said, Blessed be thou, chosen one. Do we not see thy inner life true and pure? Do not all see thy outer life kind and gentle, loyal to kin, hospitable to strangers? No thought of harm or mischief ever strained thy mind, nor word ever passed thy lips that was not true, or stilled not the passions of narrower men. Ever ready in the service of God, thou art he of whom I bear witness, there's no God but he, and thou art his chosen apostle. Khadijah believed, exalted in faith, above all women. Ali, the well-beloved, then a child of 10, but lion-hearted, plighted his faith and became from that moment the right hand of Islam. Abu Bakr, the sincere, the true-hearted, the man of wealth and influence, who used both without stint for the cause, the sober counselor, the inseparable friend, never hesitated to declare his faith. And Zayd, the freedman of Mohammed, counted his freedom as not compared with the service of Mohammed and Islam. These were the first fruits of the mission: a woman, a child, a man of affairs, and a freedman, all banded together in the equality of Islam. The revelation had come, the mission and the inspiration. But what was it leading to? It was a miracle, but not in the sense of a reversing of nature. Mustafa's vision was linked with eternity, but he was no soothsayer, foretelling passing events, the mysteries of knowledge were being opened out, but his message was no mere esoteric doctrine to be grasped by a few in contemplation, fleeing from action, nor was it the practice of single or social monasticism, undisturbed by the whims or passions of life. He was asked to stand forth, to preach, to declare the one universal God, the gracious, the merciful, and to lead men to the right and forbid the wrong. The wrong, the selfish pride of birth, the massing of power and wealth in the hands of a few, the slaughter of female infants, the orgies of gambling and drunkenness, the frauds of temples and idols and priests, the feuds and arrogance of tribes and races, the separation of sacred and profane, as if the unity of all life and all truth did not flow from the unity of God Most High. He was loyal to his family, but could he support their monopoly of power? To his tribe, but were the Quraysh the only creatures of God? To the temple of Mecca, but could he wink at Lat and Uzza and the other monsters, whose worship killed the spiritual growth of man? To the earlier revelations, but could he hold with the superstitions and falsehoods, the dogmas and creeds which went against reason and nature, and the inner light which was now fanned into flame by the will of God? And so his very virtues and loyalties pointed to offense and conflict, mockery and misrepresentation, hatred and persecution, threats, tortures, and exile. For him and his, and martyrdoms, wars, revolutions, and the shaking of the foundations of history and the social order. But Islam meant the willing submission of his will to God, the active attainment of peace through conflict. And he gave that submission, not without effort, even as Moses did before him, and Jesus in the agony of the Garden of Gethsemane. For 23 years in patience, conflict, hope, and final triumph, did this man of God receive and teach the message of the Most High. It came like the fruit of the soul's own yearning to teach profound spiritual truths, answer questions, appeal to men in their doubts and fears, help and put heart in them in moments of trial, and ordain for them laws by which they could live in society lives of purity, goodness, and peace. These messages came as inspiration to Muhammad as the need arose. On different occasions and in different places, he recited them and they were recorded by the pen. They were imprinted on his heart and mind and on the memory of his loving disciples. As the body of sacred scripture grew, it was arranged for purposes of public prayer and reading. This is the book or the reading or the Quran.